Soma flow, our slow, gentle, mindful, meditative type practice. Tonight our focus is going to be on the hamstrings. So if you want to grab a strap, you can. I can't guarantee that you'll need it or use it, but you never know for what I have planned. And you're definitely going to need a block for the practice today, so that's something you'll want to grab. If you don't have one, foam roller, anything else that you might have handy around your house that can kind of help to elevate you. It's more for stability purposes, so even like a water bottle or something that might elevate you will help a lot. And then if anyone's working, well, not going to be a lot on the knees, but if anybody's working, I know some of you do with knee injuries or issues, feel free to grab extra padding for your knees if that feels better, and then stay off of them if you need to as well. Feel free to modify the postures that we're doing in a way that allows you to feel good in that joint. Okay, so especially when we're working hamstrings, it's all connected. Same if those issues are happening in your hips. We are going to begin laying on our backs in Supta Baddha Konasana. Feel free to make this as restorative as you want, right? So remember, we're doing Soma flow, nice and gentle. So as restorative as you like, maybe blocks under the knees, bolster between the hips and the heels, and then just let your body settle in, relax onto the ground. And if it feels safe, put your hands on your body in some place. So it might feel good around the hips or inner thighs, maybe on the belly, maybe the heart and the belly. Somatically, hand on the belly, hand on the heart, or hand on the heart, hand on the head, are really soothing for the nervous system. Hand on the head is kind of like if you're experiencing a lot of thought, or I flew today, so very Vata energy, elevated energy. So hand on the head is nice, very grounding. Hand on the belly is always really good if you're feeling a little bit more anxious. Not so much in a thinking way, but in that guttural way, that kind of place where you feel it more in your body than through the fluctuations of your mind. And as we all know by now, the hand on the heart is just a way to give ourselves some compassionate touch. And stimulating the hormones of the body like serotonin and oxytocin that helps us regulate into a more stable, steady place. And we'll breathe nice and deep through the nose, but slow and soft, especially through the practice. Try to let go of any breathing ideals and let your breath be really nourishing for you in this time. Meaning you might move a little slower than us, so you might have to hold the breath a little bit if that's safe. Try not to speed up too much. And just let the breath pass as it needs to pass through the nose, softly and smooth. As you do that, notice a sense of getting heavier through the body. So any of the tension from your day is starting to melt away. And then release the hands open by your sides for a couple of breaths. So off the body in a gesture of receiving. And use that gesture to then implant your intention for practice or to invite it. And then let the eyes softly blink open if they're not already. Draw the knees up, place your feet on the floor. Roll over onto your left side in fetal pose. Once you land on your left side, prop up onto your left elbow. So you can just sink right in to that left side, like a little hammock through the rib cage. Bend into the right knee, place the right foot onto the left inner thigh. Take the peace finger and thumb of your right hand, hook it on the big toe. And as you feel ready, start by pulling your knee in towards the shoulder and then extending your leg up towards the sky. And you might look like me with a nice big bend through the knee, that's fine. You can also use a strap if that feels better. This might be that place. Or you can start to lengthen out through the leg. And so we're getting a little bit more of the inner hamstring and groin area through our Buddha pose or hammock position. And also softly opening through the side of the waist. If it feels too intense, soften the knee a little bit. If you feel like there's a bit more room, gently haul the leg towards the body. So some of the ways that we can kind of cheat when we're working with the hamstrings and the groin too is through that kind of big bend in the knee, which is fine, right, to release. And you can even do little kind of pulsations as you need to just help free that muscle until there's space. And then in this shape particularly as well, we can kind of push the hips and the booty back and kind of roll onto the back of our mat. Well, right now we want to actually kind of push the hips towards the long edge that we can see. Good, and then bend into the right knee. Place your right foot down in that little hole you've created on the left leg. So you're gonna step your foot on the inside of your left leg. Help yourself up to sit. And then turn, so you're gonna just adjust your legs a little bit so you can sit on your hips. Now basically in the left leg, you have a pigeon pose. Your right knee is pointed up, right toes are pointing forward, and we're gonna take a little twist. So you wrap your left arm around your right leg, drop your right hip down to the ground as best as you can or onto a blanket, and then gently twist as you look back over your right shoulder. Hug your right knee in towards your belly. And if that's too much for the knee, we can always pull the left heel in a little closer, slide it under, or even extend your left leg straight out, right? So modify as you need to make that feel okay. And come back to center. We're gonna roll right over, so you're gonna see the back of my body. Right, but we'll just transition right onto the right side. So right elbow comes down, knees stack open, left foot steps onto the inside of your right leg now. Then you can sink down into that right shoulder, right side body. Pull the left knee into the chest first or towards the shoulder. And then when it feels good, soften through the knee and extend that left leg up towards the sky. So you hold that, and then as you're working, shift so I can see you. And as you're working, again, you might just kind of work with that pulsation. And for those of us that are bendy flexy, which kind of used to be more me in my past teaching life than it has been now, a lot more walking and running and outdoor activities with everything that's going on. The other way that we can kind of yoga cheat our hamstrings in our groin is through hyperextension. So really pushing out through the knee. Right, so we want a softness there, so we're actually getting into the muscles and those areas that we're targeting. And then be mindful again that your booty is kind of lengthening towards the body, or the tailbone's tucking under. You can think of it like that too. And just check in, this is kind of when we bring ourselves and the body up a little closer towards the leg rather than the leg closer to us. It's a great way to start the practice and gauge the intensity in which there might be a limitation or a challenge through the hamstrings or the hips. So let's bend into the left knee, put the left foot on the inside of your right leg, toes pointing forward. Help yourself up so that you can keep that leg. You're gonna be really close to your left leg, that's what you want. So if I look this direction, this is what I look like. So kind of half pigeon, half Marucchiasana. Right, so we're doing that, and we're wrapping over to the left side. So right arm hugs, left hip sits down, left hand behind you, and the arm acts like a second spine. Now, what might want to happen is the right leg, that knee might want to lift up to help you twist open a little bit more. Try to soften through that right hip joint. Come back to center, and we're going to swing into table pose. So all you're going to do is take both legs back behind you to stand on your knees, and remember you can pad your knees if that feels okay. If you're working with any knee injuries, feel free to just move right into downward dog and take it off your knees, or even better, hover the knees and activate the quads to bring a little bit more healing to the knee joint. And we'll do a few rounds of cat-cows. So inhaling, the belly down, the heart up, and exhaling to round the spine. And if it's fine with the knees down, you can do it with the knees down. And that tilt of the pelvis, not as important right now as the tuck, right? Because the tuck is going to pull a little bit more on the backs of the legs where we're targeting. So a couple more. And if you feel this in the wrists, or the shoulders in any way, by all means, stand on your fingertips or your forearms. And just be nice and gentle with the body and the breath. And your next exhale is going to transition you into downward facing dog. And really this is going to be the biggest opening for the backs of the legs that we've had yet. So feel free, as you need, pedal your feet. Keep the knees super soft like we were doing laying down if we need as well, to create a bit more space for the backs of the legs first. And then if and when it kind of feels good, you can work straighter through the legs. And depending on that tension through the pelvis, right, we're doing the tilt and the tuck. What happens here in downward dog with the tilt and the tuck is people tend to forget that they're doing it from the pelvis, and instead they start to do it from their ribs. Okay, so try not to make it a back bend and you're dumping into the shoulders, but rather ribs in and then tilt up through the pelvic bones. And softly start to walk your feet up towards your hands, as many steps as you need to get to the top of your mat. Once you're at the top of the mat, make sure your feet are about hip width apart and bring that little softness to the knees again. So you can dangle over the legs comfortably. If it's not comfortable to dangle, stay halfway lifted up, that's fine. Use a block under your head or your hands should you need it, if that feels better too. And then bend into your left knee quite a bit and straighten out through your right leg as much as you can without locking your right knee. Keep the right leg straight, left knee bent. Walk over to the left side of the mat. So you're trying to gently place your chest and your belly over your left thigh. And then softly push the hips a little bit more over to the right. And come back to center with your hands. Bend into that right knee, lengthen out through the left side. See how that feels first with center. Check in that you're not locking the knee. And then walk over and place the belly and the chest as best as you can over the right leg and push the hips a little bit more to the left. And then walk back to center. Keep both knees soft. Roll up nice and slow, or use your hands on your legs to come up and stand. And once you arrive, you can roll the shoulders a couple of times and just sink back into the body in this elevated position. Walk the feet in a little bit closer if that feels stable for you. So feet directly underneath the hips, but not together. I'm gonna not mirror you. So find your right leg to stand on. Bring your hands to your hips. Pull your left knee up towards the chest. And I want you to point your toes towards the ground. So imagine like ballerina feet. Okay, if you were using a point shoe, try to really point through the leg, or excuse me, through the foot. Keep your knee in line with your hip as best as you can, and if that's enough for your hip flexor, stay with the knees bent. Otherwise, work a little vinyasa, so extending the left leg straight as you exhale, and then inhaling to bend the knee. Try not to fling your legs, so you can even place left hand on left thigh, so that thigh doesn't lift. You can push it down if it wants to lift up. So it's an inhale and an exhale. And just do that a few times. Settling the eyes on an unmoving point. And notice again, if you want to lift your leg or lock your knee at full extension, try not to do that. Let's do one more. Bend into the knee, step your left foot down, bring the hand onto the hip. Find your left foot, shake out the ankle if you need to first, of course. And then pull the right knee up and find stability here. Make sure that you're not lifting the right hip as well with you, so hands are keeping the hip bones level. If you want, right hand on right thigh to keep knee and hip aligned. So I can do it on this plane of view for you this time. Point the toes as much as you can, just like that point shoe. Inhale to extend the leg out. Exhale to bend. And just nice and slow. Do a few more. Let's do two more. Yeah, and then step your right foot down. Inhale your arms up over your head, maybe look to the ceiling. Exhale, fold your body softly to the ground. Inhale to peel yourself up halfway. As you exhale, step your right leg back behind you, bend into your left knee so you're in a lunge. And you can place your hands on blocks as high up as you need to get some room for the belly or the chest, or make it just feel better and more breathable in that shape. Especially because now, as we exhale, we're going to shift back and lengthen the left leg. So it's the inhale to bend the left knee, pull the heart forward. Keep your back heel lifted as you exhale, as if you're trying to pull your feet together. It'll kind of make sense a little bit more later as well, why we're not pushing the heel back. Right now we are, but when we lengthen the left leg, I want to pull the right heel up and in. Do two more. Last one. And then softly shift over to the long edge of your mat. Plant the right heels, turn the left toes, come into wide-legged forward fold. And feel free to take the feet out a little bit wider if you need to. Find the fingertips again, fists or blocks. Pull the chest forward, inhale. As you exhale, bend into the right knee. So turn the right toes out just a little bit. Leave your hands where they are, skandasana. So we're going to feel into the inner groin a little bit more intensely. Hold that position. Try to keep squeezing the right knee out to the right and pushing line of energy through that left leg. And just by looking to do that, I noticed I was locking into my knee, right? So softness through the knee. Try to get out of those kind of patterned, ingrained pattern hyperflexibility. And even, again, if we don't have a certain amount of flexibility, we'll find the patterns to where we can go. And then we're going to shift back over our left leg now into a lunge. So step your left foot back to meet your right foot in plank pose. Drop the knees back and down on the floor. Make sure your hands are under your shoulders And we'll do some hamstring cat-cow. So as you inhale, belly down, heart up, heels pull to your hips. As you exhale, tops of the feet on the mat, round your back, hover the knees, feel the core. If you can, put your knees down, padded, inhale, lift the heels, open the heart. Last time, exhale, put the tops of the feet down, round the back, pull the knees. And then pause here, inhale. And downward dog, exhale. Slide your feet together so the knuckles of your big toes touch. And inhale your left leg to the sky. I want you to be really mindful that you do not open your left hip. So no turning open to the left. And so left hip point turns down. Right heel softens towards the ground. And then exhale, step your left foot through your hands. Help it up if you need to. We want our right foot to come in, so we can come into a really short pyramid pose. And I say that really intentionally. Pull your heart forward as you inhale. Exhale, bring your hands to your hips, hover. And then slowly inhale to stand. Now this might be where you need to get your block set up, and I recommend having it handy at the top of the mat on the highest level just to start, and then if you want to move it down as we go along, feel free. And you don't want it too far away from you. So hands come back onto the hip. This is big important point is your back leg is bending. So the heel stays down on the ground, but your right knee bends, and you push your bum back as you lean forward, hands to blocks. Some of us might get hands to ground, okay? But still think about like cobra spine. So you're not rounding because you'll lose that really nice opening through the left leg. And then we'll pull back up, inhale. And then exhale, bend the right knee first, push the hips back, lengthen the spine. You can reach forward to the block or the ground. Inhale, stand back up. So part of our hamstring flexibility is actually strengthening the front or the quad, which is what we're doing in the right leg. One more. And we brought in some balance, so we'll be able to hopefully hold this. Exhale. Now we're going to stay down, hands on the ground or the blocks, and lengthen out the right leg, pyramid pose. Inhale, get a little bit more length if you can. Left hip pulls back into the socket. Exhale, fold over your left leg. And then make sure that you have equal weight in both your heels, no hyperextension. And then looking forward, step your right foot to the top of the mat. Once you arrive at the top of the mat, separate your feet again so that they're hip width apart. Soften into the knees, fold over your legs for just a moment. Good. Lift up a little bit. Bend into your left knee. We did this before. Bend into the left knee. Walk your hands over towards the right this time. So away from the bent knee, but push your hips over towards the left. So you might feel this a little bit more through the piriformis of the IT band. And do the same thing on the other side. So switch the bend into the right knee. Lengthen your left leg. Walk over to the left. And push your hips over to the right. So we're kind of like massaging in and getting all the little nooks and crannies of the attachment points of the hamstrings as well. Let's come back to center. Lift halfway up, breathe in. And then exhale, step that right foot in just a little closer to center and take the left leg back behind you. And you may find your blocks or your fingertips so you're in your lunge for that little mini vinyasa. So inhale forward to lengthen. And then exhale, lengthening over it, like pull the left heel up, try to magnetize the inner groin together. Inhale, open. Exhale, soften. So we're just trying to introduce mindfully the deeper postures that are coming. Inhaling. exhaling. One more. And then turning to the long edge of your mat, so wide-legged forward fold. And then I'll just shift so I can stay with you. This time though, when you lengthen out the spine, pull the chest forward. We take the left toes out, bend the left knee. And it's not about like how low can you go, we're not playing that game. It's really trying to mindfully open the inner edge of that right leg this time and strengthen into the quad and then open through the hip on that left side. So left knee squeezes out without the help of your hand. Push energy into the outer edge of your right foot. And turning over the right leg into your lunge. So towards the top of your mat. Step your right foot back into plank pose. Take a nice deep breath in. You can choose to go from knees or toes and lower down slowly to the ground. Now what I want you to do once you're down on the ground is bring the hands underneath your head so you have a little crocodile shape. Through the spine. Just let your belly and your body relax onto the ground. And one at a time, we're lifting our legs. So the right leg is going to lift up, stretch your toes back, just like when you're standing up, point the toes, and then exhale, lower down. And as you do the left leg, imagine someone pulling on your ankle, trying to pull the leg out of the socket, and then lower the left leg down. Do the same thing on the right side. And the same thing again on the left side. And now take both legs up next time you inhale and stay like that for a couple of breaths. If it's possible, squeeze the legs a little closer together. Notice if you're tensing the upper body or pushing it down, try not to use the upper body if you can. And then lower the legs down gently. Good. Bring the hands under the shoulders. Push yourself up into table pose. And then back into downward facing dog. Slide the left foot in a little closer. Take the right leg up towards the sky. And remember to try to keep that neutral position through the pelvis, so not opening up to the right. And so really targeting that left back leg. You might feel a hamstring, could feel calf. You could even feel the bottom of your foot. And then step the right foot up between the hands. Help it up if you need to. Bring the back foot in and down. Lengthen out through the spine so you have a really short pyramid stance, and we want that on purpose. Hands to hips. Inhale strong up. And then exhale to arrive. Now if you feel like you got a little stuck on the last side and you couldn't quite get to the ground, use 2 blocks to help anchor you, or you could even bring your feet in closer. So you know a lot of people do this and it works just as well with the feet quite close together. So hands on hips, this left leg leads first, heel stays down, so it's not a balancing act. So the heel stays down, we bend, and the point is to shift the hips back, lead with the heart, stretch to your block or to the ground, and then pull yourself up. And you see it's like your right leg, your left leg is doing the pulling or really the pushing up. So we start, left leg is doing probably a lot more than right leg. Then you push through the left leg to come up. Okay. And then last one. So secure yourself. And if this is like already a lot and it's feeling pretty juicy for the back of that right leg, by all means feel free to stay. Lengthen through the spine, keep that length as you shift forward. If possible, lengthening out left leg as well now, and then leading with the heart again as you fold into pyramid pose. And you might have one leg that you favor a little bit more than the other. So pyramid can always kind of feel a little trickier on one side.
sometimes, you know, a little rocking is nice. Like if like, oh, I could just put a micro bit more of weight in my right foot, I get a different part of the hamstring. If I shift it back over to my left leg, I get a little higher point of my hamstring, closer to the inner groin. So you can kind of gauge that way. But make sure, just like I was talking about when we were laying down on our backs, it's not like pushing the hips over to the right, like we were doing standing up and stuff like that too, okay? So it's like avoiding it. Look for it instead. Good, and then bring your left foot forward to the top of the mat. All right, now we need our block again, so grab it should you need it. We'll bring our hands onto the highest level of block, lengthen out the spine. Pull the chest forward, but make sure you're not dipping down through the belly or the ribs. So there's some engagement through the core to protect the lower back. Shift the weight over to your right leg, take your left leg back and up. Point the toes. And as we're doing on our hands and knees, we're just going to bend the left knee, pull the heel towards the bum, and then extend the left leg. So do that about 5 times on the left side. Still working with your breath. And when you've done 5, lengthen the left leg, put your left foot down on the ground, and shift over to that left foot. Take your right leg back and up. Keep the length through the spine. Point the toes and do 5 in your own time with your breath. And your breath pattern will set itself. There's no right or wrong. And you've done 5, right foot comes down. Take your left leg, step back a couple of feet behind you. You can bring your block with you or let it go wide-legged forward fold. Shift your feet. Inhale to lengthen, and then exhale to fold between both of your legs. And by all means, you can take the legs out wider, soften the knees, block under the head. And then just let yourself hang out and be free through the spine and the neck. And the hamstrings, bioenergetically, even kind of biologically, have a lot to do with our fear response, or the amount of fear we feel in our body. They tend to kind of activate, and they also are such a huge component of our stability through the body and all of the activities that we do, including sitting, right? So there can be a lot of holding patterns that happen through the hamstrings. And when we have tension, even if it's subconscious or unconscious, it creates tension through the mind and through the nervous system. Okay, so lift yourself up nice and slow, come halfway. Turn back over your right leg. So either one, you're facing the top of your mat. Drop your left knee down, pad the mat if you want. Shift the right leg back and fold. If this is too hard to sit on the left knee, you can always walk back it off the knee. It might be also too hard to sit closer to the heel. It wouldn't feel good. So you can do what we were doing instead, like we did earlier. You can lift the knee off the ground and have that same kind of motion as when we were standing a little higher. And then we have to put the left knee down, bend the right knee, table pose. And then shift yourself back into child's pose, just soften down. Let the arms rest and contract through the body. Close your eyes. And by contracting, the outer shell pulls into the child's pose. Let the inner shell soften, the inner body. And come back up onto your hands and knees. Take your left foot between your hands, help it if you need to. Blocks under the hands are really nice as well, especially to keep it gentle in that Ardha Hanukkah. And there might be a lot of room, there might be a little bit more room, there might be just the same amount of room as there normally is. Sometimes it takes more than just a few poses to massage and invigorate those muscles into a deeper release. Bend into the left knee, coming forward and back into child's pose, left leg. Soften down if you need the feet wider or something behind the knees, like a towel or a blanket, so that there's still space for the joint. You can try that. We're going on to laying on our backs anyway, so if it feels better to do this laying on your back with no pressure on the knees, you can find your way there now. Come up slowly, take your time.
Swing the feet around so you can sit on your bum. And once again, you'll need your block or your prop, bolster, pillow, really anything you want. And you can do what we're doing without anything under your bum. So feel free to remove it if you have any back issues. You don't have to use a block. Try just the lowest level to start. Gauge it from there for yourself. Remember, Soma is this kind of lunar nectar, the energy that's very lined up with the moon or rest or receptivity. So legs are straight. And again, if it doesn't feel good, remove the block or the bolster, whatever you have under your back. And let your breath just softly flow into the belly. And because our hamstrings require a lot of forward folding, you also don't want to go too high and kind of shock the system, especially if you're doing the practice in the evening. And if that's still feeling good, hug the right knee in towards the body. This might be another point where you want to use a strap. You can take it around your right shin, or if that doesn't feel good for your knee, you can bring your hands to the hamstring. And the ribs soften in, the low back relaxes down. But try not to let your left heel pop from the ground, so it stays rooted down. And now that you've found this position, you can check in. If you want, you can straighten your right leg, point the toes up towards the sky. You might hold your hamstring or your calf, your foot. Really just depends on your flexibility level, I suppose, but try not to pull, be gentle. Other points, again, where you could explore a strap if you wanted as well. Just notice the quality of your breath, right? Are you breathing mechanically, the way that you always breathe when you practice yoga? Are you breathing habitually, the way that you always breathe through your day? Or the way that you need your breath right now? And bend the right knee. Put your right foot down on the ground, and we'll just slowly switch sides. So when you feel ready, and start with the knee bent, left leg comes in, ribs and belly soften, maybe your eyes closed. And if you're going for the extension and there's a point where you want to work into that, your choice, how and when, where you hold for how long. I found on the other side for myself, holding the hamstring and actually pushing my leg into my hand rather than trying to get it down, created a bit more stability sensation through the body and allowed the hip flexor especially to relax and the leg to kind of soften into the shape a little bit more. And sometimes we need to activate the muscles and the tension for them to release and relax more profoundly. Which is kind of what we've been doing through the practice, is the stability work and the lengthening work. And bend into the left knee. As you're ready, put your left foot softly on the ground. Bend the right knee, place your right foot on the ground. Lift the hips, remove the prop, put it off to the side, and lower your hips down on the ground. Pause. Notice. Just let things settle. And then hug your knees into your chest. And you can either rock and roll or turn to one side, and we'll bring ourselves up to sit. And once you arrive at seated, our final seated pose will be Paschimottanasana. So as you need, sometimes it feels great to put a block. Again, if there's still a lot of tension living in the back of the legs, you can sit on your blanket. I think of it more like a yin in terms of that we want it to be gentle, a little bit more restorative for the body. And if it doesn't feel good to fold forward for your back anymore, doing a seated and pulling your feet towards you energetically is really nice as well, strengthening the core to support the spine. And those of you that are feeling a little more free, you might also be able to fold, take a block to your feet to keep that flex position and hold the block instead of your feet. But think, through the spine that there's as much length as you can muster without overarching the back. The chin's tucked in. And so it's as though the crown of your head is being magnetized towards your feet. It's like when you're standing. And breathe how you need to breathe to be present in your body. And to make it feel like your body is receiving wherever and whatever is most beneficial. Imagine the breath as fluid energy that can move into those areas of tension or tightness that you might be experiencing. Something like if you were getting in a nice warm bath. And let's bring ourselves back up to sit. If anything feels unfinished, by all means, feel free. So if you want to roll your neck out a little bit, take a little twist, shake out the legs, a reverse position, whatever. And then set yourself up for a meditative seat. So a nice, comfortable, cross-legged seated position. If you feel really called to lay down for Shavasana instead, by all means, enjoy this time laying down. Right? Be gentle with yourself, but discipline is also important. Right? We showed up for practice, so it's a good start. Hands resting on the thighs is grounding, palms up like when we started receiving, so it's up to you. You can also bring hands onto your lap or onto your heart. And we'll close our eyes. And so even though we aren't connected in person in the same physical space, we are all connected in the way that we experience our humanness in the same ways. So the highs and the lows, the ease and the efforts, the joys and the challenges is what really bonds us and brings all of us together, is this deep understanding. And also the recognition that it's balancing. Some might be in a space of effort, some might be in a space of ease. You might do this today and feel at peace, a different day, and feel deeply challenged. It's that human experience that creates the union or the oneness that we often talk about. And so whether we feel high on life or a little low, we still sit. And we sit because we build the capacity to be in an experience right now our own. We're also building our ability to sit with others in whatever they might be experiencing. Instead of running, we turn towards. In yoga, we have raga and dvesha, our attachment and our aversions. We love certain states, certain experiences, certain parts of the human condition, and not so much others we avoid. And as we build our strength and our capacity to sit, we may have to become a little bit like a pendulum of dropping in and then turning away. You might notice it as peace or thinking. And so we just play with these different energies until eventually there comes that sense of stillness. We call the non-attachment. It's just a moment. There's no this or that. There's no you or me. And let's bring our hands together at the heart. And the gesture of reverence, or just a glimpse into our possibility, our capability. And a gesture of gratitude for coming together in this way, in this time. And as our final reminder of how we want to continue to carry our practice back into the world with us in some way, you decide. And always an honor and a pleasure to guide you through Soma Flow. Thank you for being here.